Coming up on the Making Waves VO podcast.
And, things that I found from a video editor's perspective when I received the work from a voice talent is, one, I always appreciated it if they had like an alternate or a second take, if they would just go ahead and do it immediately after the first take, as opposed to doing a full pass and then doing a second pass with a change made. For me, it was just so much easier to edit out the one I wasn't going to use, and it just made the time flow so much faster.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Oh my goodness, Bobby. Yeah, you heard it right there. This is the Making Waves VO podcast presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
And we have got a fun episode today, Bobby, because you and I have talked about this at length. You and I come from the radio world, and we come from kind of an announcer world, and we love it when we get auditions that say, looking for an announcer on this one. I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
Big time.
Yeah. We love it when that happens, and it's great to see friends of ours have great success with that business model. And not only that business model, but, being multi-talented with other performances and deliveries. And I'm talking about Steve Henderson. We're going to get him on in just a second, Bobby. But yeah, that announcer read, is it coming back, do you think, Bobby?
Well, I tend to ask, a lot of casting people and even coaches, and everybody's saying a little. None of them are saying, yes, it is, definitely. But I'll take the little for right now because there was practically nothing for a couple of years, it seems like. So that's my answer.
I know. And it's funny because when we see these specs that they say, they tiptoe around the word announcer sometimes. They'll be like, looking for a male or female voice, straightforward, warm and friendly, and they don't give a whole lot more than that, maybe. You could interpret that as a modern-day announcer sound, though, right?
Yeah, I think they just don't like to use that word. They try to hide it. They bury it.
Yeah, I agree. But somebody that does not hide their announcer sound, and as a matter of fact, they embrace their announcer sound. Let me see if I can get my good pipes going. Ladies and gentlemen, he specializes in promo, commercial narration, and character voiceover. His clients include NASCAR, Cartoon Network, The Inspiration Network, Chick-fil-a, Georgia Publishing, and others. Ladies and gentlemen, from Good Pipes VO, it's Steve Henderson. Hey!
Hello.
Kevin, you'll never make it as low as Steve Henderson. Sorry.
I know.
He came out of the womb like that.
I need to be about 4 or 5 inches taller. Steve, how are you, my good friend?
It was good. Talking about coming out of the womb, the doctor was shocked when I looked at him and said, hey, what's up?
The doctor said, good pipes.
Yeah, good vibes.
That's right. That's where it all started, right? It came straight from the doctor.
Steve, how are you, man? How have you been?
It's good. It's been a good year. It's 2024 has been a fun year, if nothing else. Political is definitely huge right now, and just entered into the movie trailer genre, if you will.
Congratulations on that. I saw that. Way to go, dude.
It was so much fun. I mean, I've always wanted to do movie trailers, and Andrew Atkin with ACM sent me the audition, and I must have been having a bad day or something because he said I channeled a dark tone, and there you go. They actually used my audition in the trailer, so I didn't even have to do the follow-up session for it. So
that's the best, man. That's the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
I love
that was one of my questions that I was going to ask you about. I know you've been with them for a while. What are the benefits of having a manager for you, do you think?
I think the thing that I like about it is, or at least what I see is the difference between an agent versus a manager.
Mm-hmm.
I found that, I hate to use this word, but accessibility. There's definitely a team of managers with ACM. And I mean, even just like 2 weeks ago, we had a manager roundtable where literally every single manager with them got on a Zoom call with me. And we just talked about my career and where I wanted to go and whatnot. And, it's always good to have those touches because literally right after that, they booked me on a big gig. And I think it's just having that access where I know as some agents, they're just so busy and it seems that they are there to get you the work, but they don't always have that time for that kind of access. I realize I'm painting with a very wide brush here, and that's not always the case across the board. But I've just found that with a manager, that it's just easier to pick up the phone, and they will take that time to give you that career guidance.
Yeah, I get that.
That's very interesting. Steve, we know and we love that you are associated with NASCAR and you've been doing NASCAR events for a long time. How did you get started with NASCAR?
So it's actually funny. In conjunction with doing voiceover, I was a video editor for local affiliates all the way up to I finally started working with what's now Warner Brothers Discovery in their sports department. And I used to support NASCAR. So I would actually go out on all the races, and I'd be editing from the truck. And I just started to meet people that were out there. And, as with everything, you tell everybody that you do voiceover because, that's just one of those things. If nothing else, it's a good conversation starter. But they just, started to pick up on that. And people that worked with me at Warner Brothers started to make that migration to actually work for NASCAR. And then there was also a guy, just a wonderful, wonderful guy. And he's the owner of Fine Line Productions. His name is Dave Drabeck. He used to be a producer at Warner Brothers, and he had used me on a couple of his videos. And he actually was one of the writers for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And so they had been looking for a new voice, and he just floated my name out there. And the next thing I know, I'm showing up, and there it is. And it's so funny because, I grew up in Tennessee, and the supervising executive producer of the entire thing was a Tennessee Vol fan, and that's where I went to school. So we immediately had that connection. And it's funny, whenever I see him, we just talk Tennessee sports or whatever it is. But that's how I kind of got in with NASCAR, and I've been with them now, I think that's since 2014. And so I pretty much do all of the live announce for any of their award shows and the Hall of Fame. And if you ever watch a race, I'm the guy at the end that tells you can't, redistribute or duplicate or whatever without the express written consent of NASCAR.
Have you ever actually done any of the events, the races themselves live?
Not from a announce capacity, from a video editing capacity, yes.
Okay.
I've been to probably most of the tracks that are out there. And it's so fun because they have such a different personality. Like you run into, the people that you see at like a Talladega, versus, the people that are up in, the Watkins Glen road course. Very, very different personalities. And you just never know what you're going to get, but it's just neat to see that scope of fan watching that sport.
Oh, yeah, that fan base is amazing. I mean,
it's huge. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And Steve, now with the NASCAR connection, that wasn't your first foray into voiceover, though, right? How'd that get going?
How did the NASCAR get going?
No,
or
the
how did
voiceover
in general? So it's a funny story. So I grew up in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and the way all this kind of started, I was actually waiting tables at an O'Charlie's, and one night the city went up in flames.
I remember that.
Yes, Rebel Corner went up in flames, and I was waiting tables that night, and frankly, I was more interested in watching the city burn than I was giving my tables good service.
Not in a sadistic way, I hope.
No, not at all. No, it's just from an entertainment value kind of thing. I love where I grew up. They are very great. Still get up there often. The mountains are beautiful, they call me. But the table was just awful. And so, I literally brought out their salads, after their dinners, because I honestly thought that was the order things were supposed to go. I just was not paying attention to the point that it got to be comical. And so anyway, that was the summer before I went to college at the University of Tennessee. And, I got there and I thought, today's the day I start my career. And I marched over to the radio station, the student station. It was called New Rock 90. And I went in, and I was going to introduce myself, and I tapped on the general manager's door, and I opened it up, and he looked up at me. I looked at him, and he goes, "You." I'm like, "What?" It was the guy I was serving that night at O'Charlie's.
No way.
I kid you not. And so
That's so funny.
we had a laugh about that, and he handed me the application, and all I put on there was my name, and I'm the guy that effed up your salads. And I handed it to him, and the next thing I know, I had a shift. So that's how that kind of got started. And then, so I became the production director of that station. And there was a guy named Doug Renfro that came in the station one day, and I probably should have run, based on what he said on today's standards. But he just walked in and he said, "Hey, anybody want to earn a quick $50? And I raised my hand, "I do," like that. And so I started doing See It and Win promos that used to air on the Channel 1 network that was piped into schools every morning. And so I did that with him and just started making connections through that. And the company he worked for used to produce the Howdy Doody show way back in the day.
Oh my
and
gosh.
so I just started making connections. And it's surprising the amount of work that actually comes out of Knoxville, because the old Scripps building, which I guess now is Warner Brothers Discovery up there.
Yeah, HGTV's there, right?
HGTV, there's all kinds of networks and
Discovery,
things like that.
yeah.
And there's the ID network, all that kind of stuff kind of comes out of there. And they have all these boutique shops that support all that. And so I was actually kind of stunned how much work was actually coming out of that area.
You don't want to miss what's next. Making Waves returns momentarily.
This is Katie Lee, and you've got the best VO podcast in all of the land right here. The Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby. Enjoy.
Oh, Bobby, this is exciting news. Our good friends at Full Compass, fullcompass.com, have an amazing special going on right now, and that is for our very special friends that are voice actors that want to buy a voiceover bundle.
Yeah, our friend at Full Compass had mentioned at VoiceOver Atlanta they were going to look into getting bundles, and wow, when they looked into getting bundles, they went straight to the top. Neumann, we all know the name, we love the name, it's just best of the best in voiceover. So they're bundling a bunch of Neumann products and gonna save you a lot of moolah. The Neumann TLM 103 voiceover bundle includes that amazing 103 microphone, the Neumann headphones, and a really cool interface. I've never tried this, but I've heard great things about the Neumann interface.
This new era of interfaces, Bobby, is amazing because you can program these interfaces to do different things, and you can program them to, lock in audio settings and different things like that. And we know the legendary Neumann name for all these years. And the TLM 103 that you talk about, there are so many of our voice actor friends that use that microphone because it is a brilliant combination of warmth and presence, and it is an amazing microphone for a voice actor. And when you put all these together, the NDH20 headphones along with the TLM 103, and then that sweet interface, you get a savings of 23%. 23%. So the bundle that Bobby was talking about was originally $4,477. You can get it right now for a limited time for $3,449.99.
And they also have bundles with the TLM 193 and the big guy, the big daddy, the U87 AI bundle.
Yeah, and those, the prices on those are a little bit different, but there's something for every price level, whatever you want to do. Check out the voiceover bundles that they have on sale right now at Full Compass. If you want expert assistance, you can give them a call at 1-800-356-5844, or Bobby, you could go on their website, right?
Fullcompass.com.
fullcompass.com.
We know VO. And now back to Making Waves. You hinted before that you did some network post-production and video producing. How does that incorporate into your voiceover career to give you a little bit of an edge over somebody who doesn't, say?
Well, if it's kind of interesting. You know how they always say to make the audio engineer your best friend?
Mm-hmm.
I also say to make the video editor your best friend too, because they're going to take everything the audio engineer does and put it into the final piece. And I actually made a video one time about how, as a voice talent, you can really make the video editor's life easier. I tried doing a thing for a little bit called the Good Pipes Point of View, and I put together, I think, like maybe 4 or 5 videos, and that was about it. But that was one of them. And, things that I found from a video editor's perspective when I received the work from a voice talent is, one, I always appreciated it if they had like an alternate or a second take, if they would just go ahead and do it immediately after the first take as opposed to doing a full pass and then doing a second pass with a change made. For me, it was just so much easier to edit out the one I wasn't going to use, and it just made the time flow so much faster. The other thing that I found was really, really interesting, and I know there's, debate about if you do this or if you don't. I, as a video editor, always appreciated it when you included the metadata, specifically markers that you might put into your waveform. Because when you export that and you include the metadata, that shows up in my video editing system, and I can see the labels you've put on it, and it makes it really easy for me to find what I'm looking for, as opposed to having to sit there and scroll through the entire waveform, trying to find the take that the producer said they wanted to use. So from that standpoint, I found it to be really, really useful to do that.
Steve, recently Bobby and I had the opportunity to be on with Paul Schmidt and his podcast. And he asked us, did Bobby and I think that being in radio was an advantage in voiceover or a disadvantage? And Bobby and I both went over our, reasons why, there were some advantages to it, but there were some disadvantages. Let's talk about, you did the college radio thing and then you got into your video editing. Beyond making friends and making connections like that, do you think your video editing history helps you in your voiceover career?
I would say yes, just because video editing and audio editing kind of follow loosely the same principles. So it made slipping into a DAW really easy for me to kind of pick up and understand from the standpoint of just having workflow and knowing how to do file management and all that. It really helped out. But if for nothing else, it helped me out by seeing the other voice talents that would, show up in my inbox to use.
Mm-hmm.
I got to hear all sorts of different styles. I got to hear all sorts of different just takes on and perspectives on copy. And, I paid attention to all that stuff. And I think that in itself has helped me out as a voice talent, just to interpret copy and just go forward with that.
Wow. Well, Kevin started the podcast off talking about the announcer read. How did the conversational and flat reads, when those came into vogue, affect voiceover for you? And do you do much of that?
Well, I do. As a matter of fact, the class that I teach, it's called The Character Review, is all about that. I had to learn how to do that to even stay relevant in today's industry, because everything used to be the big voice, and I book a lot of stuff that's kind of satirizing the the big voice.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I did a Lay's potato chip commercial for jalapeno cheddar, and they wanted the big movie trailer sound, and it was so over the top that we had fun with it. But one thing I learned out of that is that it's not pronounced jalapeno, it's jalapeno. I had to be corrected on that. I don't know if that was my East Tennessee roots coming out or not, but we had a lot of fun with that one.
Lisa Lou Perry here, voice talent and former work wife of Kevin Kilpatrick. Bobby stole him from me. But damn it, you've still got the best VO podcast in all the land right here. The Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby. Enjoy.
Let's talk about cold read challenges. We're going to do that coming up in just a little bit. And your coaching, we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into your coaching program coming up in just a little bit. But in terms of your own coaching, Steve, did you come into this business in the voiceover world thinking that, hey, I got this, I come from college radio, I know what I'm doing? Or did you seek out coaching right away? Or did you do some voiceover work and then seek out coaching? What was the timeline for you in terms of coaching?
In terms of coaching, I've been doing it probably for maybe the past 10 years. And I had been doing, well, first of all, I like to look at it from this perspective. The voiceover industry has been really, really good to me. And I don't look at coaching as something that's a money generator per se. I do it because I want to give back. I just think that, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to get started in this. I personally, regardless of what people say about AI and the fears of that, I think there's plenty of work for everybody. And if I can give back to the industry that's been so good to me, that's what I want to do. So strangely, I live in Woodstock, Georgia, which is just north of Atlanta. And there was a an acting studio that I noticed as I was driving by to go to work every day. It was called Blank Stage, and I actually stopped in there because I'm always looking for another opportunity to train, and asked them, were they offering voiceover classes? And the guy was like, well, we're considering it, but we haven't really gotten there yet. And at that point, I'd been doing this for 25 years, and I just said, well, I've got some experience in this. I could probably, lead something for you. And they agreed to let me do a workshop. And it was a 5-hour workshop, and I had like 25 people show up, and it went fantastically. They made me their voiceover instructor, and I taught there for probably about 2.5, 3 years. And then after that, Gerald Griffith, who used to run VO Atlanta, he had a place called Voiceover City here, and it was up in Canton, Georgia. And I started coaching out of his facility. And we kind of worked together for a little bit on that. And then Mike Stout and Heidi Rue reached out to me from the Atlanta Voiceover Studio and asked me to come and teach my class down there at their place. And I've been there for about the past 4.5 years, and hundreds of students have come through. It's just been, man, what a great, great place that is. I just love how they meet people where they're at. Their motto is to elevate, equip, and inspire. And it's just beautiful to see how they, as such wonderful people, translate that into a curriculum that helps people really get ahead.
I've heard great things about them, too. I think, actually, that was kind of Christy Bowen's inspiration for the Tennessee Voiceover Studios, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Isn't Christy great?
Yeah, she is. She's
Good
really
people.
cool. You guys have something in common. Kevin and I were just talking about this a couple episodes ago. You both auditioned to be the voice of a professional sporting event. Steve, what was yours again?
I made it to the final round of 12 for the Atlanta Braves.
Are you kidding, man?
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is I know nothing about baseball. And I'd seen it, and people were like, oh, you got to try for this. You got to try for this. I'm like, I don't know anything about baseball. Why would I do that? And so I was literally at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I just finished the event, and I just received like 5 phone calls from people after the event, and they're just like, Steve, you got to do this. You got to do this. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I came home. I literally had 1 day before the submission window closed, and I put together a video and sent it in. And sure enough, they called me and said, hey, would you be interested in trying this? And one of the things I thought was funny is in the kind of interview process, they're like, so are you a baseball guy? Well, I've been an NBA fan my entire life. And I'm like, well, I'm more of a basketball guy, thinking that's going to kill me on this. But they still called me, and I got to go down to Truist Park and step into the booth and speak and hear my voice over the speakers in the stadium, and it was really, really cool. But didn't make it past the round of 12, but all things considered, it's probably for the best that it didn't work out. So.
Kevin's story is very similar.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw they had a call out for the Tennessee Titans stadium announcer, and nice. I'm like, I was born for this, man. My radio background, my sports broadcasting background, my passion for the Titans, and just my love for all things sports. And I did the same thing. I submitted my video. I got a call back, and they're like, Kevin, out of hundreds of people, we want you to come in and do a live audition. And they turned it into like an American Idol kind of vibe. They had some celebrity judges, quote unquote. Long story short, I made the top 10. And then they called me, Steve, and I was fully expecting the guy. He was like, Kevin, you did an amazing job. You did this. And I kept waiting for him to go, and we would like to offer you. And he never got to that. But he goes, but unfortunately, you're right outside of the top 5. And I'm like, well, shit. Dude, for me, it was heartbreaking because I really, really, really wanted it. But now that it's over, I can look back a couple of years later, and they picked a great guy. The guy is really good. And then I go, you know what? My Sundays are free now. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, similar story. So really, really cool stuff. I wanted to get back to the coaching thing, but I wanted to find out from you, from your take, from you coming into the voiceover world, from your background and everything, Was there ever a watershed moment for you in terms of coaches that coached you in voiceover? Or is it all kind of a grinding process of you continually learning?
I would say it's a process of continually learning. I can say the people that I have coached with have been outstanding. I started kind of going through it with the VO Atlanta and what used to be VO Intensity. And Kay Bess is awesome.
She's in
I will
Nashville
say
now,
that.
by the way.
Yep.
I know.
Oh, yeah,
I know.
we all had dinner.
I mean, we all had dinner when I came in last time. So, but she just, she really, really instilled in me in just the short time it was at VO Intensity that we worked together just about the philosophy of how to kind of approach voiceover. And I really appreciated that. I've trained with Mark Ryder on some commercial stuff, and I just love his approach of just confidence. And what a neat guy. I love his social media, how he does everything with his horses and shows his life outside of voiceover. But man, just to talk to him and just what an approachable person. I know he can kind of come off as intimidating, just given
He does
what a
not
beast he
lack
is in the
confidence,
industry.
Steve.
He does not lack confidence, but there is such a personable side to him as well. It's just such a neat thing to see. I worked with Donovan Cornitz in promo,
cool.
And what a neat guy.
We
Just
had
his
him on the
approach.
podcast.
Yeah,
He is a great guy.
He's just talk about suave, man. He's got it. And then Tom Pinto, man, what a legend. That guy.
Love me some Pinto.
He is just phenomenal. His way of guiding you through the nuance of reads. It's just spectacular. So love working with those people. I thank all of them for what they've instilled in me. And it just really helps to, when you get copy to kind of be able to parse it down and figure out where you want to go with it.
Hang around. We'll be back shortly.
Hey, this is international award-winning voice actor Krista Walrock, and you're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Full Compass is your one-stop destination for cutting-edge audio, video, and lighting solutions. With nearly 50 years of industry expertise, we offer a vast selection of high-quality equipment, from microphones, recording interfaces, and software, to audio accessories, monitors, headphones, and other pieces to help you find your ideal sound. Our trained product experts are here to help every step of the way with unmatched customer service. You'll also get free same-day shipping, flexible financing options, and a low-price guarantee. Visit us online at fullcompass.com or call 800-356-5844 today.
Now, back to the podcast.
So many people who are coming into this industry get the good advice that, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I love that you're in so many genres. Because it just makes sense, because everything's not going to be super hot. And didn't you do some promo work, like in Asia or something? Was it Fox over there or something like that?
I did a promo for it was over in England for a football club, if you will, but it was actual American football.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was weird to, call out the teams that, nobody's heard of, Great Britain versus Luxembourg or whatever it is. It was weird, but, they wanted that big, bold, in your face, kind of read. So, I was able to give that to them.
Steve, what are you
Nice.
working on most? We love the NASCAR stuff that you do, the lays and the trailers and the fancy and the glamorous kind of stuff. But what is your grind? What is your, hey, every week I know I'm going to be probably working on this?
So I do a lot of corporate narration work, but recently, and I think, you guys can speak to this too, political has been the hot button thing right now. I'd say I probably do upwards of 10 to 12 political spots a week right now.
Oh, good for
and
you,
it's
man.
it's hot, and it's thankfully it's from a financial standpoint, it's definitely helping out. So I would definitely say political is what's keeping me going right now for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, every 4 years, you can kind of count on that year being a little bit of a boost because of political, because so much work can come in for you. So, good.
Well, not only that, but even in the midterms, I mean, I found that it's, it's just, but that is another case of it's kind of who you know. I had a producer I used to work with, strangely, at Cartoon Network that moved out of that area and started becoming the creative director at a post house that just did political work, and he remembered me. So I went from, promoting, Uncle Grandpa and Mighty Magiswords to, doing election campaigns. So
Do you pick a side?
Different. Do I pick a side? I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems to be the thing.
That's
the
the
thing
way
to do
you
these
do
days.
it. Well, Steve, we're gonna talk about your coaching program coming up in just a second. But if you're ready, I'm gonna send you the cold read challenge. Are you ready for it?
Let's see what happens. Let me open up the old email here and see what we got.
I just literally hit send on it. Bobby and Lacey can also take a peek at it. But Steve, the way it works is you just pull open the PDF that I've sent, read the direction out loud, and then dive in. So whenever you get that, please proceed.
Cold Read Challenge.
Direction in the style of a dramatic action movie trailer. Start slow and build the suspense. All right, let's see what happens here. This Friday, Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. A fuzzy bear was Wuzzy. He was living in a happy bear world until his secret was uncovered. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. And in the fuzzy bear world, this is a big bear problem. Fur will fly this Friday. Fuzzy Wuzzy, rated R.
Perfect. Gosh, you nailed that.
Oh, Fuzzy Wuzzy, he and I are close friends, so I don't even know what that means. But
Oh, that sounded just like I heard it in my head.
there you go. There you go.
Perfect.
Oh,
That's
Steve, that
so
was
funny.
great, man. Good stuff. I knew you would
Man,
nail that. See, I
You
told
were
you.
way
Appreciate that.
down there.
Thank you.
I told you we
Yeah,
set
no.
you up for success, man.
There you go. That was nice.
Oh, good
You
stuff.
need to put that on your demo.
That's right. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, man, this Friday the fur will fly.
Yep.
Oh, so
my
Steve, you talk about, and I'm the same way, man. It's like we don't do coaching, as a way to generate income, so to speak. It's more we get the income to kind of cover our time. I do it as a way of giving back. You do it as a way of giving back. Tell us about your coaching program, if you would.
So, again, it's called The Character of You. And the reason that I came up with it, again, is because I have this big announcer voice and everything was going to that flatter, conversational style. And so I had to start coming up with techniques and things that I do to sound a little more like I'm talking to you now, as opposed to the big voice and everything being polished and everything like that. And one of the things that I found that I had to give myself the most was, frankly, permission. I mean, that was the biggest thing, because I wanted to go big and bold, but I had to give myself the permission to say, you know what, you can still do this. Your voice is what it is. Just speak like you speak, and nothing else is really necessary above and beyond that. And Tom Pinto really, really helped sell that for me. He just kind of told me, Steve, your voice is what it is. Just open your mouth and make sound. Focus on the message. And that's what it really is it's focusing mostly on the message and how you can achieve that authentic read style. And a lot of it, people, they hear the word character in the title, Character of You. And what it really is, it's not about characters. It's about the different instances of you that are already within you. For instance, one of the things that I do is I have people, just kind of write down people of significance in their life. And through that, I ask them, what does that make you? For instance, if you have a husband or wife, that makes you a husband or wife. If you have a brother or sister, that makes you a sibling. If you have a niece or a nephew, it makes you an aunt or an uncle, and so on and so forth and down the line. And the reason that's important is because in each of those different characters of you, you speak differently. And the reason why is because the relationship you have with the people you're talking to is so different. And one of the things that I realized is, I mean, you guys can answer this question for me. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody and the next thing you know, 2 hours have passed and you didn't even realize the time passed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Have you ever had a conversation with the exact same person and it just didn't go anywhere?
I don't know about that.
Right. Well, do you know why that happens?
Because you're comfortable with them?
Well, it's actually value. You have something to say. There's something of value you want to say to them. And so what happens is, one of the things I talk about is personal truth. In other words, you have something in front of you. Do you like it or do you not like it? Well, either answer is valid. And then what I do is I ask you to tell me why you feel that way. And that statement you give me is your value statement. You know, for instance, I always say to people, do you like green peppers on your pizza? Well, I get mixed reviews on that. And I ask them to tell me why. And as soon as they start to tell me why, they're telling me something that in response, that has an opinion. In other words, that has value behind it. That becomes your ultimate lead in to a spot. And so, you know, through that, I ask you, you have your personal truth and your value. That is what you want to communicate to that person you've chosen to speak to. They hear what you have to say. They have their own personal truth about what you had to say and their value for why they felt that. They send it back to you. And that's what we call conversation. There's relationship in that because they know you, you know them. And when that value stops, that's when the conversation stops. You know what I'm saying? So in my coaching, what I really look for is what's the value inside of that script? And how can I have a feeling about that I want to communicate to you? And I take into consideration, how do I want the person to feel after they hear what I have to say? You know, and then what happens when they respond back to me? You know, reaction is a strong, strong motivator for authenticity. So we really dive into all those kinds of things. And it's really neat to see people take the class because it never turns out the same for anybody. And the reason why is because we're all unique. And we all have our different life, you know, histories, our experiences, all of that comes into play. And it's of so much value. But what I've found is people are so afraid to bring who they actually are to the mic. And that's the reason I really, really hammer home that whole thing about permission. It's a permission thing, straight out. And once I finally gave it to myself, that's when I noticed that my booking started going up.
That's very interesting. I love that. I know your daughter does voiceover. Are you her coach, or does she have an outside coach?
She worked with Sandy DeLonga for a while.
Yeah.
And Sandy's great. She is more of a singer now than anything. She just blows me away with her voice. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So she's gotten into more musical theater and things like that. But she's on the Pandora roster, and they'll use her for spots there. She'll book a spot or two here and there. And she loves it. It's hilarious. She tells me all the time now that she wants to get more into it. And so I'm really excited to see what the future holds for her.
That's sweet.
Steve,
Awesome.
This has been magical. We appreciate your time today. If folks wanted to reach out to you for possible coaching or for booking or for social, how could they reach you?
I have a website. It's goodpipesvo.com. And all of my contact information is there. There's a button on there that says Train with Steve, and it'll take you to my scheduling page. People can sign up for any times that are available there. And we have a good time. It's it's a one-on-one session. I record all of them so I can provide you a video of the session so that you can watch it back. Because I hate for people to sit there and feel like they've got to scribble notes while we're talking. I feel like they don't really take it in, but that recording gives them a chance to go back and pick up anything they might have missed. So
That's fantastic. And Steve is also on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X, right?
Still working on the X part. I never got into the whole Twitter thing, but I'm going to get there soon.
Okay. No worries. No worries. You're out there.
It was great to catch up with you. Everything.
Absolutely. Great talking with you, too. Thanks for having me.
I love it. I say team announcer. Go announcer, Bobby.
Can you imagine what he sounds like when he has a cold?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
The walls probably rumble.
Yeah, no kidding. And the thing about Steve is you just listen to him, and like he said, his voice is what it is. That's how he sounds. He just happens to have a deep, resonant, bassy voice. But he's been able to utilize it to earn a living doing voiceover. And
his curriculum sounds really cool.
Yeah, and isn't it funny how nowadays we almost say, in spite of having a really good voice, he's able to make it in voiceover.
I know.
Whereas in the old days, it was all about you had to have a good deep voice. But
yeah,
that landscape
the
is
times they are a-changing.
Times they are a-changing. Great stuff, Bobby. And we're going to have another fun episode coming up next week on the Making Waves VO podcast. We're going to talk more about voiceover coaching with a good friend of ours.
And another person who had a little bit of a radio career, Linda Bruno, will be joining us on the podcast. Can't wait to talk to her.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, the Making Waves VO podcast presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Bye, Bobby.
The Making Waves VO podcast is produced by K2 Media Productions with hosts Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. Sound design and editing by Jason Traver. Production assistance by Lacey Deline. Publicity and social media by Shannon Scott and Silas Phillips. Be sure to subscribe to the Making Waves VO podcast on your favorite platform. For all episodes, merchandise, gear, and more, visit makingwavesvo.com. Until next time, I'm AJ McKay. Keep making waves.